All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new edition of Pod By The BAE. I am your host, Nathan Bond. Joined alongside me, Seth Varnadore. Seth, some news and nuggets from the Wednesday press conference with USF football head coach Alex Golesh and a couple of players. We'll dig into that. Off the top, do want to mention Bulls Block Party, Saturday down in Ybor. We are sponsoring the Double Decker. So get your karaoke on, tell your friends, come hang out with us for a little bit, have a couple refreshments, enjoy the fun as we get ready. We gear up for a season that on Saturday will be just 2 short weekends away. 14 days. I mean,
it's flying. I mean, it felt so long, and now at the end here, it's starting to fly by. So
right.
Next week we'll have games next weekend, right?
Yeah, is that
Florida State, Georgia Tech, in Ireland.
Look at that.
Week 0 action.
I mean, it's gonna be a blast. My birthday's on Friday, so come to the Double Decker and wish me happy birthday, and get me a nice Diet Coke.
There you go. Our official drink of Diet Coke. Yep. Do we have things to give out?
They're on their way. Lord willing, they get here before Saturday.
I may have some things. We'll talk off here. I may have some things I could send you as well to give out.
Perfect.
That could be classified as a collector's item, possibly. So that may be a hey. If you come up and show us you're in the Patreon, you get a little treat.
Yeah, so. Maybe. Oh man, I don't like having contraband on me in Ybor. I don't feel like getting arrested.
That's true. You better watch out. It's going to be like a drug deal passing those things out.
Oh God! All right, let's dive into it. Coach Golesh had a press conference on Wednesday, kind of discussing practice number 13 of fall camp. The team is off on Thursday. 2 more practices, Friday, Saturday, before basically they start game week prep, basically mock game week next week, and then real game week the following week. And we are so back. So he mentioned, Seth, and you kind of brought this up in I think it was in the Discord, kind of prepping for the show. He mentioned that the older guys he's kind of put it to the older guys to start bringing the freshmen along. You kind of see it a little wide-eyed. There's a lot of information to take in over the first, 13 practices. But he believes that there are going to be some impact freshmen playing concerted minutes for this USF team, both on offense, defense, and maybe even special teams in the case of Nico Grammatica. Wanted to kind of run down some of the names he mentioned, maybe some names that you would hope or think could make an impact. The first place to look at is the wide receiver room. I think he mentioned Josh Porter's had a phenomenal camp. He's been kind of an under the radar sort of guy comparatively to some of the other younger guys in that wide receiver room. He doesn't have the blazing speed of a Jaquan Smith, who was mentioned today as well, but could be an impact guy in 2024.
Yeah, he got mentioned. I think Golesh said he's running with the 2s and has gotten some reps with the 1s. So
right,
that's always a great spot to be in. Golesh also mentioned Brandon Winton today, but more in terms of he's physically ready to play, but he's still learning a little bit. But both those guys came in for the bowl practices, right? So they've been around for a while, and those are both guys we heard from people in the offseason. Both these guys can play. We're pretty excited about both of them. They said all the guys they brought in for the bowl, they were pretty excited about. So, but yeah, Josh Porter getting some run already at a little Fort Meade High School. So, yeah, the receiver room, man, it seems like it's going to be a tough one to crack for a young guy. But if he's already running the 2s and getting some reps, he's giving himself a shot. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have the staple in Sean Atkins, and then basically outside of that is Naeem Simmons probably will get a lot of run on the outside, inside, outside, kind of just moving him around. But the other wide receiver and their standard 11 personnel, 12 personnel, however they want to kind of trot it out there this year. I think probably a lot of 11 personnel. I would imagine. With the way they've hyped up Peyton Singletary, the transfer from Cincinnati, you've got to figure out, okay, who are the other outside wide receivers? Who's going to make an impact for this team? Is there anybody that's kind of maybe popped off or for you, or Golesh just kind of laid clues or eggs to maybe some of the older guys or some of the guys that have been in the room for a little bit?
I feel like he's mentioned Michael Brown Stevens like every time he's talked receivers. Like that's one of the first guys he's mentioned. He kind of talked about last year, and this is something that kind of I think we realized like late in the camp, and you may have even talked about it kind of in the preseason. They were really struggling with health at receiver to start the year last year, and that there are some guys that had struggles, and he was one of them that didn't quite get in till later and fully up to speed. But, Golesh mentioned him today. He was like a 2-year starter at Minnesota. Abdur Rahman Yassin, the transfer from Purdue, also started at Purdue but had time cut short due to injuries. He's another guy he's mentioned as having a pretty good camp. And then the interesting one I thought was Josh Hardman, who was previously known as Josh Cobbs, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was played at Wyoming, and his stats at Wyoming aren't eye-popping. But when you realize how few times they threw the ball, it'd be like getting a 60-catch, 700-yard or 60-catch, 800, 900-yard receiver just in like USF's offense. So the amount of throws they had, he got a big share of them there. And I thought the interesting part of talking about him, because he's a big dude that can run. I don't know how much wiggle he's got, but he's 6'4", 200 pounds, and seems like he can run and get those 50-50 balls. But Golesh mentioned they tried to get him last year when he was in the portal. He's from Texas, so he went to Houston instead. But I just thought it was interesting that he was the guy that's been on their radar. And as soon as he went back in the portal, Golesh said he got hurt after kind of week one. He looked like he was going to play a lot, got hurt, and then got back in the portal this year, and they went back and got him. So they must like him quite a bit if they've kind of been tracking him almost for 2 years. So that's a guy they like what he brings to the table. So he might be a guy that kind of flew under the radar a little bit that maybe can be a little bit more important than people thought.
Yeah. It sounds silly, but I would assume the name change has probably thrown a lot of people as well.
That's true.
I mean, he everybody has been playing, college football 25. We played it a bunch. I was playing it just tonight as I was listening to Golesh's press conference. He's in the game, Josh Cobbs. So, when you're going through the roster and you see Josh Cobbs, you're kind of like, who's that in real life? Because there's not Josh Cobbs in real life. Is this a Chris Lamb situation? Yes. So when you find out, oh no, this is actually a guy who's built and kind of ready to maybe make an impact for this roster. It's exciting. The multiplicity that they may be able to run. I think we've talked about it. I asked Golesh this maybe late last year or in the spring at some point about the tight end room, maybe being able to do different personnel packages, right? So you've got Singletary who by all accounts is going to be tight end number one. It kind of seems like a lock. Golesh mentioned he was always a good pass catcher. Cincinnati, he was kind of worried about the inline blocking. He said he's kind of brought that up to snuff over camp, and
he said he's gained 25 pounds since he's been on campus.
That's wild. I mean, freshman 15, the senior 25 is, I guess, a thing.
It's not hard. I mean, come on, let's get real people.
So impressive job by him. And then if Wes, if he ever gets healthy, there's a spot there for him.
I thought he's like, yeah, Weston, he did a really good season last year, and he's really Peyton Singletary, a lot of praise. West Wolf a lot of praise. He's like Gunnar Greenwald. He's coming along, and then just like winning the next guy.
Yeah. So
he's just. I think he's kind of steady, and you know what you got with him. Like there's not much to be learned. He's been around for a while. You know what you got.
Yep.
He gives you everything he's got, and he's got a great. Does a great. I don't know, facial reactions.
Yes. Great. Bench hype man, maybe. Ninth man on the bench, kind of waving the towel. You always need one of those. But he mentioned Evan Dangler last week. I was out at practice, and folks were telling me, "Hey, Evan Dangler is probably going to be playing."
If you listen to the Ponderosa last week, we talked a lot of Dangler.
And my guess that Dangler would play more offensive snaps than Jonathan Eccles. But the comments that Alex Golesh had today during his press conference on Wednesday, I feel even better about it. Missed all spring, missed the first basically week and a half, 2 weeks of fall camp. So he's really behind the eight ball. Finally got cleared. Now he's got to play catch up. I don't know. There's a lot of guys ahead of him already in the room.
There's 4 dudes that were mentioned that they're like, yeah, we know what we kind of got with him. I thought it was interesting. Dangler was mentioned as kind of a guy that Eccles can give them something like flexed out as basically another receiver, which could be interesting because they got him listed at 6'6", 225. So like that's a big dude that can move out there. So maybe he'll get a package or something where he's flexed out wide and you can do some stuff with him. But the way he spoke about Dangler made it seem like they feel like they can move him around a little bit too. Mm-hmm. And so now you could play some 12 personnel. You could go, which they played a decent bit last year, but I mean, maybe you even get to where you're flex one of the tight ends out and you're really in like 13 personnel or, you're really, so you got the 2 tight ends and you got a big body flexed out wide. They could do some interesting stuff. I don't know if they will, but the way he talked about Dangler, it seemed like a guy they were going to move around a little bit, not just going to be an attached tight end. So seems like they've got different body types and different skill sets, which is good in that room because then you could have a guy that's attached to the line of scrimmage. You can have a guy that moves around. You can have a guy that's flexed out wide. You can do a lot of different things when you have that kind of multiplicity in that group. So,
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, at Tennessee they had a couple of tight ends that were actually pretty phenomenal in his year up there. Or am I just losing my mind?
He was the tight ends coach, I believe, right? He was offensive coordinator, tight ends coach was his title. So, yeah, no, they had some guys that could play, and they would, with all the movement and stuff, and all the where you have the tight end inserting a bunch, and then you slip them, and the safeties are out wide playing deep stuff over there, and you slip this tight end right down the seam. They did that quite a bit, and they seem to have a bunch of guys that they might be able to get a little bit more passing game production out of the tight ends.
Yeah,
he seemed to be defensive of their run game performance when he's asked about production. He's like, they didn't catch a lot of passes, but they were productive last year.
Yeah, exactly. Couple of injury updates real quick that we want to hit. Kawan Powell injured in the spring game. Golesh did mention that maybe a mid-season return for him. Same with Jaden Alexis, who also tore his ACL. I think that was his second time tearing, I believe, the same ACL. So looking for mid-season return for him as well. Speed recovery. I think just adding a couple of assets to those rooms is not a terrible thing. It's why you went out and got Teron Keith in the portal late, because you wanted to add a third guy who has played significant snaps in college football, and that's what he gives you, and definitely gives you dynamic ability that, even Kawan doesn't really possess. He was kind of more in between the tackle, short yardage guy, regardless. So that's an added bonus. We don't really have that on the roster right now. I wouldn't say any of the backs that they possess. Maybe Naquan Wright is probably the closest to a K1 Powell goal line smash mouth guy. But I think Naquan's a little bit more wiggly and has some room to kind of burn some folks.
Yeah.
As Olivia comes in and says hello.
Who does she think's the best running back?
Liv, who do you think the best USF running back is?
She got to watch him, right?
Should
Chris Lang.
Who's the best? Yeah. Who's the best quarterback? Who's the best guy in the red jerseys? She doesn't know. She doesn't want to cloud anybody's judgments.
I like it. She's not biased.
Yeah. She's had a very long day. She got to school pretty early. Then she had YMCA, and then today was like her first day cheerleading. I guess the coach texted Samantha and was like, "Hey, please bring your kid out. I guess we need people." So she's been on the go for about 13 hours. Yeah. So like I said, Naquan kind of filling that role in. I think honestly don't know who the starter is because you never really hear Coach talk about Naquan, right? It's a lot of Kelly Joyner, Teron Keith, and maybe it's just because those are the questions he's being asked. But hopefully, he's just not the forgotten man in the running back room because I think he's going to provide something that both of those guys cannot do.
Yeah, he's a little bit more between the tackles. Those two are a little bit more explosive, I think. I don't know. I haven't seen a ton of Keith, but he seems like he's a pretty explosive guy. It's just always with Kelly Joyner, if he can stay healthy. He just has not been able to stay healthy at all. Like we said, we're going to do our part. We're not going to allow him to be picked in the fantasy football this year.
Right.
So nobody can jinx him. So we'll do our part to help him out. But good reports on him, though. I mean, Golesh been awesome. Just if he can stay healthy, that's always been his thing. He's always had kind of the skills, but it's always been a health issue.
And he did mention this is what he expected Kelly Joyner to be a year ago, before he had basically split his time at wide receiver and running back. So full-time running back, and it seems to be doing a good job.
Yeah. And then I was going to add, we kind of talked about a little bit some of the young guys offensively who we think are going to be, contributors. We talked Josh Porter, Brandon Winton. Any names you think defensively?
So I kind of mentioned it in the Ponderosa last week, right? Or maybe it was just in the Discord after the practice I went to. Some names that were thrown out to me. Brent Austin goes by Paco. Seems to be lighting it up. Rucker was also a guy that Golesh highlighted on Wednesday. Basically, anybody that they brought in, they seem very high on. It seems like maybe they didn't miss on too many, and that could be coach speak or it could be legitimate. But
Todd Orlando said that they felt like they hit on all the portal guys,
right? So, and you do have to take it with a grain of salt. Coaches are not going to, unless you're Charlie Strong, coaches aren't going to throw their guys under the bus. But I'm excited for it. I think that they have the bodies to throw at the problem, which is a good thing to have, which they did not have over the last couple of years. And then, it's, one hand washes the other, but the defensive line needs to produce. The defensive line needs to get pressure. DBs need to be able to cover, but they can't be covering for 7 seconds and hoping for the best. At some point, you got to be able to get great pressure and things of that nature.
And that's one thing they mentioned. I know Bernard Gooden talked today, and they mentioned him as a pass rusher in the interior, because he is a little smaller and quicker. He was listed at 6'1", 265, but today he said he was like 275, 280, or he thinks he'll be 280 by the end of camp. That's a little bit more reassuring than thinking he's 265. I was like, oh my Lord.
Yeah. That's a small D tackle right
there. He said he was powerful though. So he's like, just wait till the strength numbers come out. I'm good. So, because somebody's like, oh, you just went with speed. He's like, no. He's like, I'm also got power.
Who amongst us hasn't said, hey, small but powerful, all right?
Yeah.
We get the job done.
Yeah. That's all that matters in the end.
Yeah.
Job done.
Yeah. How you use it, not what it is.
So he's a good penetrator, apparently, in the passing game, and we'll see if anybody else can step up on the outside. I think there's a couple guys like DJ Harris, Jason Vaughn getting back. He was, even in his limited time, we talked about him a little bit on the Ponderous last week, that he had a knee. He felt like he had glass in his knee, I believe was the phrase that was used. And he still had 2 tackles for loss and a sack against Alabama.
Right.
He might be helpful once he's healthy.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. Excited for him.
One name I didn't see mentioned as a freshman that seems to pop up a lot on these highlight videos, and he just may be tormenting. He just may be a tormentor for Bryce Archie, but Fred Gaskin seems to be making interceptions all the time.
A lot.
And every time it seems to be Bryce Archie.
At the expense of Bryce Archie. Yeah.
He's like his sleep paralysis demon come to life on the football, because he's made, I think there's been videos like 3 or 4 interceptions he's made.
Yeah.
And he might be a guy. He was super dynamic in high school with the ball in his hands, but also tough. Played the back. He played both ways, I think, in high school.
Yeah.
Guard. And he's a guy that's flashed on the limited stuff we've seen, but I haven't heard him mentioned really.
Yeah, I know there was a conversation about either him being take on the offensive side of the ball or defensive side of the ball, and it seems to be he seems to be taking to the defensive side of the ball and still finding a way to get the ball in his hands, which is a nice problem to have. Kicker still kind of up in the air for the Bulls between John Cannon and Nico Gramatica, the freshman legacy adjacent, I guess. Because Martin can go to USF. He was coached by Jim Leavitt, which is how the other Gramaticas got to Tampa. But legacy adjacent with the uncles being
we'll take it.
Bill and Santiago. There was a quip about his celebrations. So
I believe that's when Steeg said he said something to the effect of, "There's a question about Gramatica. It's too long. I'm over it." That's how was his recap. Yes. In the Discord. So
yeah.
So
we'll see how that goes. Long snapper seems to still be a battle. There's the transfer from Fordham, I believe.
Long snapper.
Yeah,
I think there's a Charleston Southern transfer.
Charleston Southern. I got
Garrett Cates, Charleston Southern.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't Fordham in New York? It's not even remotely close to.
Yeah, I think it's in the North East. You might have been thinking Furman.
Maybe
Furman's in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina.
I was listening to the Splits on Duo Sunbelt preview, and one of the schools has a Fordham transfer. Brody's freaking out. Oh my god! Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. You don't want to take a shower.
I've been there, brother.
Oh my god, it's way past his bedtime. So. Girls' sister started cheerleading.
So, do we think it's gonna be split duties at kicker? Like we had somebody in the Discord kind of say, "Do you think it'll be this is a kickoff specialist guy, this is a short field goal guy, this guy's a long field goal guy," or do you think they want to have one guy that can just do it all?
Didn't Alabama, when they were really sucky at kicking, have a short and long distance kicker, and it didn't really work out for them too well?
Is it the old if you got 2 kickers, you don't have any kickers?
It could be. Yeah. It honestly could be because those mid 2010s Alabama, I feel like they were the beginning. They were the ground zero. They were patient one of #college kickers.
That was the exhaust port in the Death Star.
Yes. That was the ongoing joke.
Somebody came in. Saban did not get that taken care of, and that was the one spot you could hit him. So, yeah.
And it was the whole case for LSU that one season was, they beat Alabama. Alabama missed 4 field goals that year, and then I think they they suffocated LSU so much in the national championship game, it didn't really matter. I believe it's the end result there. And the final score was 13-3 or something like that. It was not a fun national championship game, but I digress. Well, give me one kicker.
One kicker. No, one kicker, me. So
I don't ask for much. Just give me one solid kicker.
I like. We need to start saying if you got two kickers, you don't have any kickers.
Exactly.
Let's get it out there. So, yeah, we got a lot more specialist talk today than I thought. We were going to get. So that was interesting.
And Andrew Stokes being the best that Golesh has seen since he's been here, which is good for the 30-year-old. Yeah. I don't think he's quite 30 yet.
He's the best version of himself is a few times today.
Yeah, so
the best version of himself, which is all you can ask for. So
yeah, I did love when Byram kind of bristled at the notion that the only playmaker on the roster was Sean Atkins last year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he was the only one actually consistently making plays.
He had like 90. To be fair, he did.
But 92 catches.
To be fair, he did catch 92 footballs. So, but I mean, that was great quarterback speak from Byram there. Oh, we had playmaker. Everybody's a playmaker. We've got them all over the place. Love it.
Double A. He's such a weird bird. Like his favorite quarterback being Aaron Rodgers still blows my mind.
I'm not shocked. I think if you're a certain age, Rodgers was like, because he is very like natural looking throwing. He's very smooth. So if I think Byram said he looked effortless throwing the ball.
Right.
He does. There was a time like 5 years ago, almost everybody had said, I mean, a lot of people thought Aaron Rodgers was the greatest quarterback of all time. So the bloom has come off his rose as he's gotten older a little bit, but I'm not shocked.
He can still sling. It's always fascinating to me. He doesn't like macaroni and cheese. He's a weird cat.
He's built different.
He is absolutely built different, and he's like 225 pounds built different.
literally built different. Yeah.
Like that dude is freaking yoked, man. He is a true blue 6'4", 225.
Yeah, he's a big dude, man.
He is a big freaking dude. So that'll be exciting to see.
It'll be. I think one thing will be with kind of the increased depth you feel like, or usable depth at running back. You know, are they going to run him less this year? Is it just going to be kind of, hey, he's bigger, stronger. We can run him if we need to. I don't know. That'll be something to watch for, I think, because I feel like they thought they had to run him too much last year at times.
Yeah, probably. Just because, I mean, the running back room last year wasn't really that explosive. So, like, he was your explosive runner.
Yeah. He's a great, scrambler, too.
He is.
Non-design runs, he's awesome. He's so slippery and a really just smooth runner that it makes it tough. He doesn't take a lot of really big shots either, so he's a pretty good runner in those terms. So we'll see. We'll see if they pull that back or let it ride. So
yeah. Anything else you want to kind of discuss before we get out of here for tonight?
I don't think a lot of it was pretty general. I mean, he kind of gave updates on every position. You know, a couple names here or there, but we've kind of already talked through them. So, you know, it was a camp. They're being pretty close to the vest during camp, right. But I think you can see there's some positions where they do feel good about some guys. Maybe I think receiver could be really interesting if everyone stays healthy. Because last year you kind of had a rotating room of who was healthy, who wasn't.
Right.
And you never quite got everyone who was on the roster out there at the same time. Even now you've got Jaden Alexis hurt, but they brought in some more guys. So that could be a really fun room, I think, to look at. And that's something that, you know, Byram, even though it was kind of a coach speak type answer, he was correct saying, we've got to – because they asked him, point out some guys in the receiver room that you think can take a leap. And he's like, everybody.
Right.
Because outside Sean Atkins, all those guys kind of – I looked, the next closest guy was Naeem Simmons with 39 catches last year. Sean Atkins had 92. So they could all probably take a little bit step up. But, and I think they have the ability to do it too. Like Naeem Simmons was playing out of position last year. He was playing outside when came in. He was going to be a slot, I think. So
yeah.
And Michael Brown-Stevens had injury stuff. Jane Alexis had injury stuff, and then like getting up to speed. So that group is the most interesting one to me going forward to see how they play out. Because if you've played any college football 25, Jaquan Smith is a superstar.
Right.
So it'd be cool to see it translate on the field pretty early.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Somebody, I don't know, it might have been Andrew. Somebody posted Jaquan Smith's stats, and it was like 22 catches for 1,000 yards, or something like that today.
Yeah,
he's a big problem in the game. It seems like for people.
Yeah.
Yes, 22 receptions, 1,097 yards, and 13 touchdowns. He's very fast, and apparently also very good on the kick return. So
yes, underrated kick returner in the game. MBS, he housed 2 for me once, so that was pretty cool. A quick aside now, the last thing, I was playing NCAA the other night. All right, college football 25. I'm still going to call it NCAA.
That's what I was going to ask you. How long will it take you to not call it NCAA?
Quite a while.
I struggle quite a bit.
Quite a while. Yeah. And so I've already sent the 24 season, went to college football playoff, lost in like the semifinals. I was simming the games. So it was pretty cool that they actually made it that far, just simming the game. 2025, I've got Florida, Boise State, Florida, Miami. Start the season 4-1. I'm like, oh my God, absolutely. End the season 5-7.
Oof.
I had fired the defensive coordinator so quickly.
Oh.
Gave up close to 40 points a game.
Tom Hardman was so happy.
I mean, golly, it was brutal. I couldn't believe it. Wasted Byram's junior year. That was the most frustrating part. It's just wasting a junior year for Byram. So we'll see how the season works out. What I find fascinating, kind of running through different versions of Dynasty. And the first time I did Dynasty, Izzy Carter becomes like a star almost immediately.
Yeah.
He is now like 4th on the depth chart in year 3.
Interesting.
At a 73. Like Bryce Archie's like an 81. The true, I think, a redshirt freshman's an 80, and then Izzy Carter's a 73. So I find that interesting on that. Like,
yeah,
you're not going to get the same.
I'm doing a start as a coach in the MAC as OC. I'm working my way up the coaching ranks here. I mean, great offense. I don't want to talk. We don't need to talk about that. But in the playoff, USF was the 12th seed, and it was like 4 years in, and Izzy Carter was a dude. Like, he was having a really good year. Yeah. Like, I saw it on the scroll at the bottom. Izzy Carter's like 22-29, 300 yards, like in the AAC championship game or something. So I was like, oh, that's a real guy. I know that name.
So, yeah. So we'll see.
Great college football 25 team.
Yes.
It really is. Hopefully a great real college football 2024 team. We'll see. It's been competitive, they say.
Yes.
Have you ever heard anybody say it hasn't been real competitive this camp, guys? I got to be honest. It's not a lot of guys are fighting for positions. We're mostly resting on our laurels.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going at each other.
Yeah.
That's the players' version of we're going to be aggressive and multiple. Yeah, competition. Yeah. So
best friends, but we're still competing against each other.
That's right. Off the field,
brothers.
We hang out, we eat dinner together. On the field, we're enemies. Yeah,
exactly.
Anything else you want to say about this weekend before we go?
Make sure you guys come out. It's a good time. It'll be fun. Samantha will be out there. I believe her sister and her sister's boyfriend are coming down for the block party. Her sister's in medical school at Florida State. She's coming down to support us, the Bay Area Examiner. And
when does the contest end?
Midnight Wednesday. So there will be a winner pick by the time you hear this.
All right. So that'll be on Instagram.
Yes.
So if you commented on Instagram, by the time you're hearing this, go check it. We'll have somebody picked coming out there with the tickets.
Yep.
And have a nice little time.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I think it starts at 1:00. So I think it starts at the 1920, if I'm not mistaken, and then kind of opens up from there. It'll be a fun time. It's always nice to give back and help. We got a nice little note from the Alumni Association for sponsoring this, so excited for it. This is what we are going to do with the money that we make. It's definitely a passion project, but we want to be able to give back when we can.
Yeah, give back, travel to games, provide better coverage. Just about everything we make goes back into the coverage, or we'll donate to some various USF things. So
there you go.
So if you're interested in helping us do that, check out Patreon. The Bear Examiners on Patreon. You can join the $5 tier. Just get in the Insider Discord where we put any kind of insider news we get or anything we're hearing in there. $10 a month to get you that and an extra podcast a week on average. So, I mean, during football season, you end up with like almost 8 to 10 extra things a month. Articles, previews, all that kind of stuff. So it's all about to gear up a lot here. So that's $10 a month. Pretty good value, I think, really good value. So join us on patreon.com/Bear Examiner, I believe. So check us out.
There you go. There you have it. With that being said, go Bulls.
Go Bulls.